I do believe that I may have figured out why the solar system has went bonkers basically with the voltage and the false reading and all that. I have checked all the components and all of them seem to be working correctly. My theory, I have to test it and see. And that theory is I believe that the terminal on one battery was not a good connection. So the battery monitoring device, not the battery monitoring system in the batteries themselves, but the Victron battery monitor was only reading the charge and discharge from one battery. I have two 100 amp hour batteries. And when it reads full charged, it would be 200 amp hours. Now, if I am using the power inverter and discharging, thinking I'm discharging two batteries and I'm only discharging one, the app is set for 200 amp hours, so it will read as if there was two batteries getting discharged. But if only one is getting discharged and it gets down to 10 volts, then that would be roughly 100 amp hours used. And the app was showing that 101 amp hours used. Consumed, I do believe, is the word they use. And that would make the percentage to be at 49%. Because that means one battery has depleted completely. It can't go from 49% or 101 amp hour used and go down any further because it cannot be pulled. Power cannot be pulled from that one battery because of bad connection. It would just shut down because it can't get any power from that second battery. It's like set it up as you got 200 but only connect up 100 amp hour battery, and when it gets depleted, that's 50% of what you got the app set for. And since it don't have any second battery as you told it that it has, it's just going to shut down because it don't have that extra 50% that it thinks it has. And I think that's what actually happened, because I distinctly remember when I got up the next morning, the first thing I did was disconnect the negatives on the batteries to be able to read the voltage on both batteries. And apparently, one of them connections was not real good. And when I put it back together, it made a good connection and it started charging and it's working so far. That's my theory. I've done research online. I even asked Google, what's Gemini and AI and all the things that it's exposed to online that I can use, all the tools I can use just to see what kind of answer that would be fed back to me with the scenario that I was actually getting. That is my theory. That's the only thing I can come up with that actually makes sense to the symptoms that I received from the solar charging system. Is the app is set to have 200 amp hours to 100, but it was only capable of reading from one, and it got to 50%. And that's exactly when it cut off. I do not remember what the voltage was when I read each battery individually. Well, I didn't, at the time, I didn't read both batteries. I actually just put the voltmeter on one to see if it's reading the same thing as the app. I should have read both of them individually because most likely that would tell me what the issue was, because one of them that was actually getting discharged would have been reading 10 some volts, and the other one would most likely still read 12 or 13 volts because it was not getting discharged. I should have done that, but there's nothing I can do about that except have it as a theory and test that theory, because I know I read across the from the breaker and the battery monitor, and I read 10 volts. But if one battery is low and the other one's high, I don't know about them particular kind of batteries if it would read the lowest or read the highest or the average. I can only go by what I tested, but it was like almost 7 o'clock in the morning when I was actually messing with it. So I wasn't quite completely awake and alert of doing exactly the right steps to actually test the system. But I can't go back, so I can only test my theory, and that's what I'm doing. I took all the terminal on the battery, all the terminals, the wire connections, cleaned them, put them back on the batteries, and charging. And it seems to be charging with no issue. It's already up to like 85, 86%. The only thing I can do is let it keep charging until it gets maxed out, and then use it. And when it starts getting down to 60%, 55%, check the batteries and be sure both of them are actually getting discharged evenly. And if one is getting discharged and the other one's not, maybe it's the battery. It's all electronics. It's going to go whenever it decides to go. But as soon as I get a chance, which is probably Sunday, to take the batteries individually and charge them until they max out and the battery monitoring system that's built into the battery actually disconnects so it won't be overcharged. Do that. Do that to both of them, and then let them settle, reconnect everything, and then use the system as usual. And when it starts getting down to the 50% mark, disconnect the batteries and see if both of them are dropping evenly. If they are, then there's nothing really else to do because both of them are getting discharged. Now, again, if one is getting discharged and the other one, no, that I think that's the best way I can find out if it's actually the issue was just a bad connection. Because when I do remember the negative on the battery on the right, before I disconnected it, it was loose. I can actually move it a little bit underneath the bolt itself. Not much, but it was able to move. And if it just lost its connection, then that would make it react as it did. But the only way to do it is just clean everything, put it back together, charge them completely, and be sure it shows state of charge 100%. Use it. Maybe I'll get the coffee maker so I can really put a strain on it and get it down to 50% and then disconnect the batteries and read both of them and see if both of them are actually dropping evenly. So, testing a solar system and be forced to drink a lot of coffee. Sounds like a winner to me. I'll let you know as soon as I know. See you in the next one.